What's up, YouTube? Back for another album review. This time I'm going to be reviewing an album that, quite frankly, everybody knows, or at least everybody should know. And if you can hear that, then you know exactly what album I'm talking about. This album was rated the #1 album of all time by Rolling Stone magazine on their top 500 albums list. That album is the infamous, well, not infamous, but epic Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. This album, I mean, you can only say so much about this album because, I mean, what else is there to be said? Is it epic? Yes. Is it revolutionary? Yes. Is it arguably the greatest album of all time? Sure. Is it their best album? I'm going to say no, but that's just my opinion. But this album is just simply phenomenal. I mean, that's all you can say about it because it's so revolutionary, so ahead of its time. Probably the first concept album. This was released in 1967. This is when the Beatles broke out into, you know, being the biggest band of all time. I mean, this is just a phenomenal album. Can't say anything negative about it. Besides, it's overplayed, but that's another story. Because some might think it is, some might think it's not. So, go ahead and get right into the albums, or the songs. This is on the vinyl. This is not a re-release. This is actually an original copy of it. So, this isn't one of the re-released albums that I usually have, but yeah. Go ahead and get into the songs. The album kicks off with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Very good, you know, up-tempo, rocking kind of song. You know, great introduction to the album, definitely. So, great song to start out. The next song is A Little Help from My Friends, which is probably the best Ringo sung song, even though he didn't write the song, but it's still a great song, and it's one of the most known songs on the album. And you can see here it's got all the lyrics for all the songs and stuff, so yeah, Will Help From My Friends is a great song. And the third song is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I mean, all these songs are just classics. I mean, all these songs are just some of the Beatles' biggest songs ever. And Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is not about LSD, so there you go. No, that's a whole other story, but yeah, great song, one of their most known songs. Then the next song is Getting Better, and this is one of my favorite songs on the album. I think it's an underrated song. I think it doesn't quite get enough credit, but it's a great song, really catchy song. Just like pretty much everything else on this album is really catchy, but Getting Better is a great song, one of the highlights to me on the record. Next song is Fixing a Hole. It's another really good song. I think it's, you know, one of the better ones on the album, and it's a great song. I think it's, you know, one of the best ones, so Fixing a Hole is a great song. Then we have She's Leaving Home, and I think this is a good song. It's not necessarily one of my favorites on the album, but it is a good song, and, you know, very good ballad overall, but there's better on the album, but this is also a very good song, so there you go. Then the next song is Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. Now, this is a very trippy song. I mean, this album is really the Beatles' first album where they really went really psychedelic. They started going psychedelic on Revolver with songs like Tomorrow Never Knows, but this album is where they just really picked it up. But Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite's a good song. Not one of my favorites, but still a really good song, you know, as far as that goes. Side 2 kicks off with Within You, Without You, a George Harrison song. And this is a good song. This is, I compared it to Love You Too, which is another George Harrison song off of Revolver, and I actually like Love You Too better, but this is a good song still too. Definitely one of the better songs on the album. And then we have When I'm 64. This is just a very simple, like, almost cartoony, childish kind of song, but it's really catchy. I'm not gonna lie, it's a good song. When I'm 64. Very good. Okay, and then we have Lovely Rita, which is, I think, one of the better songs on the album. Probably one of the highlights on side 2, definitely. One of the better ones on there, so this is a really good song, too. Lovely Rita, I mean, one of the more known songs on the album, so good song there. Then we have Good Morning, which I think is a very underrated song. Very catchy, very good song. One of my favorites on the album for sure, and like I said, it's kind of underrated because, I mean, it gets overshadowed by a lot of the songs on here, but it's a good song that I think stands its own very well. Then we have Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band Reprise. This is pretty much like the regular Sgt. Pepper song was the opener, and this is pretty much the closer. It's a short song. It's another rocky song. It's really catchy, and I like it. It's not very long, but it's a good song. And then the album closes with arguably the greatest Beatles song of all time, A Day in the Life. I mean, there's nothing you can say about this song that hasn't already been said. Arguably the greatest Beatles song of ever, you know, of all time. One of the best songs of all time in general. It's just epic. Probably the best John Lennon sung Beatles song probably of all time. Even though Paul's in the middle part, but this is probably John's best vocal performance in the Beatles while he was in the Beatles, and this is one of their most known songs, so yeah, epic way to end the album. But yes, this album is just simply phenomenal. It's one of the most iconic, maybe the most famous album cover of all time, and it's just so awesome. Everything about this album is revolutionary and cutting edge, and that's what the Beatles did. So as far as rating this album, you can't really give it anything but a 10 out of 10. I mean, that's just what it is. I give this album a 10 out of 10 because it's so good, but it's not quite the best Beatles album, but it is up there in the top probably 3 in my opinion, top 4 or 5, whatever. But yeah, that's my review of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The Rolling Stone magazine listed it #1 greatest album of all time, so that says it right there. So thank you all for watching, and more videos will be up in the future.